Hi, everyone. Good to be live with you. Well, you asked for, I'm answering. You guys have asked me to get to the bottom of what's really going on with the tragic death of actress Anne Heche. Her cause of death was just released, and police have announced they are going to stop investigating her strange crash. It is true that video was filmed of her struggling to get out of the body bag as she was wheeled away from the crash scene. If she had the strength to do that, why was she later declared dead? People have so many questions. Now people are talking about looping her in with the crash that killed Representative Jackie Walorski from Indiana. It is true that their crashes occurred 2 days apart. Are the two women connected? We're going to get to the bottom of this. There's talk of their work with sex trafficking. We're going to tie all this together and look at what's true and what's false. It's time to fact check this. Stay till the end for sure, because we're going to talk about what is really true about hackable cars. How hackable are cars? The mainstream media used to report on this, so we're going to dig that back up. Before we get into it, shout out to the sponsor of my coverage. Would you survive a year-long power outage? It's more likely to happen than you might realize. Terrorist groups, foreign countries, and other evil individuals have been waiting for the opportune moment to attack American soil. Unfortunately, our country has a major weakness that these groups are learning about. That weakness is our power grid. An attack on the power grid would cripple our country and leave us without power for years. This is why I've turned to dark age protection. No survival guide on earth will prepare you for what's in store in the coming months the way that Dark Age Protection will. It's an expertly written survival book that guides you through step-by-step actions that must be taken to ensure your survival over the coming weeks. Anyone without this life-saving information is putting their lives at risk and are unlikely to survive weeks, much less years, throughout a power outage or blackout, which NASA scientists say could happen as early as next week. Protect yourself during a nationwide crisis with Dark Age Protection. Every viewer of my podcast is eligible to get the Dark Age Protection Survival Guide, but only for a limited time. Get your downloadable copy now before anyone takes it down by going to darkageprotection.com. Link down in my description. Hello, everyone. I want to answer your questions. So you guys are asking some good questions. In the video of her speeding by, Anne Heche, it sounds like the tires are squealing. Maybe she pulled the e-brake and couldn't stop. We're going to play the video of her squealing by and look at cars that seem to have a mind of their own. I'm going to zone in on a couple of other crashes that have happened, one of which happened here in the Houston area where I live, that I was on the ground covering, a really strange Tesla crash that killed both of the occupants, and clashing stories from local investigators versus federal investigators of that crash. Okay, a good question. You said, I forget where your question was, but is it true? Oh, yeah. Is it true that Anne Heche was just finished making a film about sex trafficking? Like, I think the name of the girl in Room 8, many rumors on social media now, a remote control car 2, makes you think, yeah, tons of rumors. So we're going to cut through it. And yes, it is true. She was had just finished filming this movie, which is still scheduled to come out. So we're going to look at that. It is indeed about sex trafficking. I'm going to tell you what it's about. Okay, so first of all, People Magazine, the entertainment news is tackling this because she was an actress. Here it is, People at Magazine. Anne Heche's cause of death ruled an accident as coroner determines official cause. This just came out. Anne Heche's official cause of death says she died due to inhalation of smoke and thermal injuries. According to the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner, her manner of death was listed as an accident, and also noted that a sternal fracture due to blunt trauma was another significant condition from the devastating car crash she was involved in on August 5th. So sternal, that means that her breastbone was fractured. All right. Also, People Magazine reported that LAPD will no longer investigate her car crash. And people are like, what? We want to get to the bottom of this. People Magazine reporting after close to a week of being hospitalized in critical condition, a rep for Anne Heche told People on Thursday that she was in a coma after suffering, quote, severe anoxic brain injury and was not expected to survive. So it's interesting that her rep said it was a severe brain injury that led to her death several days after she was hospitalized. But the coroner is saying it was smoke inhalation that killed her. But how was she strong enough to wriggle her way out of that body bag at the crash scene? And why was she put in the body bag to begin with if she was that alive? Okay. Shouldn't they had placed something on her to help her breathe, given her some oxygen at the scene, not stick her in a body bag? People have a lot of questions, and this has led to conspiracy theories. I want to show you a very popular conspiracy theory on Twitter and the rebuttal from the mainstream fact checkers. Here it is, this tweet. Do you know that Jackie Walorski, that's the representative I covered 2 weeks ago, was a Christian missionary in Romania cooperating on investigations into child sex trafficking, who, after returning to the United States and being elected to the U.S. Congress, sponsored the Human Trafficking Prevention, Intervention, and Recovery Act of 2014, who during the past year was in contact with Hollywood actress Anne Heche, who during the past year was making the movie Girl in Room 13 about child sex slavery and trafficking. Now, do you know both Jackie Walorski and Anne Heche are dead? Yeah, Jackie Walorski, the tweet goes on to say, on August 3rd, and Anne Heche on August 5th. The accident formal death was August 11th. That's when she was declared brain dead, both with cars speeding out of the blue and changing directions. So then they link this article, Radio Hack, Lets Hackers Steal 24 different car models. They also show the video of her wriggling out of her body bag right there. It was Fox 11 News who actually captured that live on TV, you guys. That is indeed the actress. You can see here's another angle right there. So the culture in Los Angeles where this crash happened in local news is whenever there is a car chase or a crazy crash scene, the local news choppers go out to the scene and they broadcast that live. I mean, LA is big with that. They will cut into normal broadcasting to show some crazy car scene. So a lot of wild stuff is captured on live news. And indeed, this scene was captured, and I think I have a YouTube video where you can actually hear the Fox 11 News announcer describing what he's seeing, and he's shocked. This video actually, it's going to start with the video of her car racing by. One of you guys mentioned earlier, you said it sounded like maybe she was trying her security brake. Let's see, or her e-brake or emergency brake. Let's see what we hear here.
Newsroom, you can see the moments
it just
before
flew
the
by
crash. You will see a blue Mini Cooper fly by on the street here, leading up into this house. You can see that actress Anne Heche was going at a high rate of speed.
There it is in that.
Doesn't look that good, but yeah, it does look terrible.
That's the Fox 11 anchor.
Just see if maybe they're just moving him out of there, or if they put him in an ambulance. That's some sort of sign, but yes. So basically, the activity that we were looking for, that anxious or that quick moving, that was going on the other side of the vehicle. Oh my gosh, he's completely alive.
Insane. So they didn't know at the time it was actress Anne Heche. They're saying he.
He was trying to get away. He was. I don't know. That was really, really strange. And that's what we love about breaking news here in Los Angeles, is right when you think you've seen it all.
That's what we love about breaking news. You can see how, numb to the reality of the tragedy the anchors are. I mean, guys, I covered crashes and crimes and murders for 9 corporate years myself. And the corporate news people get numb to it. They're just like, it's like this video game they're describing. Like, oh, that's what we love about live TV. Oh, this lady wriggled out of a body bag. Actually, he thought it was a man at that point. We later learned it was Anne Heche. So that particular clip actually did not have the audio for when the car screeches by. So I'm going to show you guys TMZ's coverage because they included the audio. TMZ did a pretty thorough job on this, actually, when it comes to entertainment news. TMZ sometimes gets a lot of things right. Okay, so here, I think they play it with the audio here. You hear the impact there. So yeah, I agree with you. You do hear that screeching the whole way, almost like she was using the e-brake. Now, TMZ had something really interesting in their article. I want to read for you here. At the very end of TMZ's article, they said, we're told, it says, quote, we're told she's currently in the hospital, intubated, but expected to live. We're told her condition prevents doctors from performing any tests to determine if she was driving under the influence of alcohol. I thought that was very strange as someone who's covered a lot of crashes and a lot of tragedies and crimes. And, she's in a condition where you saw her wriggling out of a body bag. I don't see why they can't draw blood at some point to test whether she was under the influence of anything. So TMZ saying, yeah, apparently there were no tests done to see what was going on in her blood. But also I do want to show, all this evidence is leading, it's perfect fodder for conspiracy theory. But something weird was going on with her, because there's a previous clip of her in the same car here. TMZ also has, and she had just crashed into an apartment building. You can see, apparently, we're told, TMZ says this was the same day, her same blue car, and she crashes into that. The guy's trying to get her to stop, and she backs up and takes off at a high rate of speed. So, something was up with her. Apparently, a warrant was issued to get her blood checked that same day because of some other incidents she was in, perhaps that one. So it is possible that she was just under the influence. TMZ had another image that showed a clear bottle with a red cap in her car. It's unclear whether that was the same day or a totally different day, but it looked like she had an alcohol bottle in her car. So it's possible that that was related to her crash. But it is true that she was indeed just completing a film about sex trafficking. This is a crazy story. So, and it is reminiscent of the Epstein saga. So this is the movie Girl in Room 13, scheduled for release September 17th, you guys. It's still going to be coming out next month. Sorry, there was a fly flying around me. So this is about a young girl who gets a sports injury and then becomes addicted to opioids. She's doing better getting off the opioids when she gets kidnapped, and her kidnapper gets her back on drugs and basically grooms her into this position of compliance with whatever he wants her to do. He gets her so addicted to substances that she will do whatever he wants and be his little slave. So then he turns her into a sex slave. And so that is the movie that Anne Heche just completed. Now, let me just loop in the fact checkers here who are circling the wagons and saying, you all are crazy if you think anything weird is going on with all of this. PolitiFact. Anne Heche was murdered by the Illuminati because she was working on a movie about Jeffrey Epstein, PolitiFact writes. I guess that's a quote from an Instagram post. Their answer is no, Anne Heche wasn't murdered because she was working on a movie about Epstein. They go through this whole saga. They're like, yeah, it is true. There was a woman wriggling out of a body bag. They don't mention that, yeah, that was Fox 11's live footage of Anne Heche's crash. And they confirm all these things. And then they say at the bottom, we rate this pants on fire. They say here the movie is not about Epstein, the financier who was accused of sex trafficking and assaulting dozens of girls. He died in jail in 2019 before he could face charges. So, yeah, as far as I know, the movie isn't about him, but there are a lot of unanswered questions, and people have questions about whether she was connected to Representative Jackie Walorski, both involved in strange crashes, both involved in bringing light to the issue of sex trafficking, which is indeed a huge problem. Okay, so look here. Jackie Walorski died in a crash August 3rd, and Heche, her crash occurs August 5th. She was pronounced dead August 14th. Look at this AP update. Police change account of crash killing Indiana Representative Walorski. It is interesting, because as soon as this happened, some of my viewers were like, well, was it the rigging of the hacking of the car? Well, one thing I noticed right away is that police said the other car swerved and hit Walorski. And I was like, well, the chances that police would, that someone would hack that car and have it perfectly hit her car was pretty rare. Well, then they changed the account and they said, oh, we got it wrong. It was Walorski's car that swerved, actually. So her staffer was driving and swerved on a curve and went head on into the other car, killing all three people in his car as well as the woman in the other car. So I thought that was very interesting. Now, it would be, if it was an incident of cars being hacked, and like I said at the end, I'm going to get to when the mainstream media covered actual evidence of cars being hackable. Okay, it is a real thing. But it would be if someone was going to hack another person's car, they've got to hack the person that they want to kill, not the oncoming car. That would just be too difficult. Well, that's what ended up happening. It was indeed her car that did the swerving, not the oncoming car. So that reopens the question of, was her car hacked after all? And these are things where I'm going to get to at the end, where when someone hacks a car, it's nearly indetectable. It's incredibly hard to figure out whether that car was hacked. I mean, people crash every day for a myriad of reasons. People get distracted, they look away, and that's why they swerve their car. Although these incidents, when a car dramatically accelerates, like you saw happen with Anne Heche, then you wonder, because it's like, why would someone purposely in a residential area put the pedal to the metal when they see an obstacle in the distance and they don't slow down at all? That makes no sense. Okay, so we're gonna decipher the conspiracy theory that we showed on Twitter. Okay, is it true? Well, here's the thing. I had a lot of difficulty finding any connection between Anne Heche and Jackie Walorski as far as did they work together. Here's the thing. This is the Time article, basically an obituary of Jackie Walorski. Now, the conspiracy theory tweet mentioned that Walorski went to Romania and helped sex trafficking victims. Well, if you search, by the way, Command F allows you to search any keywords. So you search Romania, And indeed, Time, sorry, I misspelled it, Romania. Time magazine brings up, indeed, she was working in Romania. Jackie Walorski, it says her background reads like an idealized About Me page from a Republican candidate with time spent studying at Jerry Falwell's Liberty University and 4 years as a missionary in Romania. Okay. And it goes on to say Christian missionary work in Romania. They mentioned it a couple times. So it is true she was doing missionary work in Romania. You know, the word is that she was actually helping sex trafficking victims. And that is why she had such a fire under her to pass sex trafficking legislation once she became a congresswoman. That is true. She spent relentless years pushing sex trafficking legislation to help victims of sex trafficking and stop sex trafficking from happening. You see here, congress.gov, you have her bill, the Human Trafficking Prevention, Intervention, and Recovery Act of 2014. Okay, so we've got that. And then again in 2018, we have her talking about legislation on sex trafficking that she has successfully passed. Let me show you that.
Human trafficking is modern day slavery, and we are taking action to crack down on those who help make
Sorry, guys.
it possible. The House passed a bipartisan bill to combat the evil of human trafficking. It will give law enforcement new tools and make it easier for states to crack down on websites that support and facilitate trafficking. It's just the latest action Congress has taken to protect survivors of abuse and violence. We passed legislation which the president recently signed into law that will protect young athletes from sexual abuse by requiring amateur athletic organizations to immediately report allegations to law enforcement. We also passed a bill to help victims of human trafficking recover and rebuild their lives through transitional housing grants. Sexual abuse and human trafficking are unspeakably evil, and we're taking action to protect and empower survivors.
Yeah. So there you go. She was an ardent advocate for the victims of sex trafficking. By the way, update from the office of the clerk of the House of Representatives. It is true that her constituents in her district in Indiana are right now, not represented as legislation is being passed. As we saw, the House of Representatives just sign off on the Inflation Reduction Act, something Jackie Walorski was strongly against. She didn't get to cast her vote against it, and her constituents didn't get to have anyone cast their vote against it because she has died. Not that her vote would have made a difference because Democrats have such a majority right now, but special election is in the works. Just to update you guys, her husband has just endorsed her finance chairman to hopefully for him fill her seat, and then her constituents can be represented again. I want to bring your attention to the death of a reporter who died in a crash. Now, my viewers mentioned this to me after I bought my Mercedes, which I was not aware of, but this reporter was driving a Mercedes. Mercedes are like big old computers. A lot of cars are now. I almost miss my old Hyundai, which was a lot simpler. This Mercedes is just a computer. And as we know, computers are hackable. Well, this reporter was driving a Mercedes when he mysteriously died. His name is Michael Hastings, 33 years old. It's unclear. This happened back in 2013. He was an investigative reporter uncovering a lot of dirt from the corrupt people in Washington. And he had, shortly before his death, alerted people that he was being tracked. Basically, he felt confident the feds were watching him closely and interrogating his associates, and that they were going to be coming after him. And that's amid reporters like people from the AP being spied on by the feds. Under the Obama administration, reporters were really getting spied on by the feds, and that's probably never stopped, honestly. But he was very aware of this, and he was uncovering the dirt in the Obama administration when he sounded the alarm that he felt he was in danger. He was going to lie low. Next thing you know, he drives his car. It accelerates out of nowhere, hits a tree at a high rate of speed, bursts into flames. He dies. It was really mysterious. And I have an excerpt here from the Civil Liberties Defense Center. It says the driver in the fatal crash, Michael Hastings, 33-year-old crack investigative reporter for Rolling Stone magazine, whose June 2010 article, The Runaway General, exposed the behind-the-scenes failure of the top U.S. General Stanley McChrystal's counterinsurgency strategy in Afghanistan, and even more damagingly revealed McChrystal's mocking attitude toward the Obama administration, which ultimately led to the general's resignation. Now, New York Magazine had a whole article on Michael Hastings' death, titled "Who Killed Michael Hastings?" And he was working on a lot of stories exposing the feds. And it says here, let's see, I highlighted this part. Whenever I'd been reporting, this is something that Michael Hastings had said before he died. He said, whenever I'd been reporting around groups of dudes whose job it was to kill people, he said once, one of them would usually mention that they were going to kill me. So he had written an email to associates June 17th of that year, giving them a heads up that he was basically being looked at by the feds. He says the feds are interviewing my close friends and associates. He said in the email he was onto a big story and needed to go off the radar for a bit. Hope to see you all soon, he said. He was deeply agitated. Someone from the Young Turks said, I guess the Young Turks had talked to him around that time. And he seemed like he knew his safety was at risk. Next thing you know, he's dead in a bizarre car crash where the motor of his car was thrown way far ahead out of the car, which people say, that doesn't happen with Mercedes. And so some people wondered, was it a car bomb that detonated or what the heck happened? But he did hit a palm tree in LA and his car burst into flames, killing him. They had to fingerprint him to figure out it was him because his body was so damaged. Here he is working on a presidential campaign. So people are wondering, I guess his motor was thrown 30 yards. The engine block was found more than 30 yards away from the car, a distance explicable to chat room denizens only by some sort of car bomb. So conspiracy theories raged. Now, before we get to the hackability of cars, I want to draw your attention to a strange crash that happened last year here in the Houston area where I live, at the suburb of Spring, Texas. This was a Tesla. You can see how damaged the Tesla was, absolutely charred ashes. The local paper, Houston Chronicle, reports fiery Tesla crash in Spring came after mashed accelerator, NTSB says evidence shows. So here's the thing. The local constable's office was the first on scene investigating this, and they noted there was nobody in the driver's seat of this car. Okay, somehow the car took off on its own. They were literally, they were very close to this man's home. They were in his little residential neighborhood. It appeared he had just pulled out from his driveway on a street that has a 30 mile per hour speed limit, a quiet neighborhood. And for some reason, he and his buddy, these are wealthy, one's a doctor, one's a financial planner, men in their 50s, I believe they were. For some reason, they put the pedal to the metal in their 30 mile per hour neighborhood when they know there's a barricade right ahead, like the road does end, that's an act of suicide as far as I can tell. Now, why would someone do that? Well, when the constable's office showed up, they made note nobody was in the driver's seat of this car. So then the feds swooped in. That's the NTSB. They're in charge of, they typically investigate plane crashes. And if you saw my interview a few weeks ago about the ninth strange crash of a plane off the coast of New York in 1996 that killed over 200 people, when the NTSB swooped in, they threw out, basically, they were investigating it. An NTSB whistleblower years later came forward and said, yeah, we were controlled by the FBI to throw out this evidence, and all the evidence seemed to point to that the plane was shot down, but the NTSB put out an official report saying, no, that's not true. There was like a spark, two wires crossed and sparked in one of the engines. So, all that evidence, all those dozens of eyewitnesses saying that they saw a missile go up and hit the plane. That's not true. So the NTSB back then was apparently controlled by the FBI. Well, now the NTSB, for some reason, is investigating a car crash, which is a little strange. I don't know. Is it because it's an electric car? Anyway, they swoop in and say, no, it's not true. The driver was indeed in the driver's seat. And this report mentions that the constable's office, their only response to that is that they are aware of the NTSB's updated report. The constable's office seems to be holding its ground, saying, no, dude, we were there, we investigated, nobody was in the driver's seat. NTSB is saying, no, the driver was there and he mashed the accelerator. But apparently there was evidence of some sort of impact against the steering wheel that the NTSB is saying that is how they were able to tell that the driver was indeed in the driver's seat and his body went against the steering wheel. I don't even see a steering wheel in this picture. It's so engulfed in flames. Now, one friend of the doctor, it was the doctor's car. Okay, this all happened during the pandemic, and you know how doctors took heat during the pandemic. If any doctor went against the pandemic narrative, they were in trouble. So now this is rife for conspiracy theory too. And I've looked at this, and I had to cover this when it happened. I was with Fox at the time, and I haven't found anything to corroborate that this doctor was going against the narrative or anything like that. But this is the doctor on the left, the doctor who died, and then the financial planner on the right, his friend who was in the passenger seat. Now, the friend says he believes that since the car was engulfed in flames, the doctor got out of his driver's seat, moved to the back seat to try to escape the car, but there was no escaping. So that's one theory as to why there was no occupant of the driver's seat when it happened. But still, people are wondering if this was one of those cars that was hacked and took off on its own. Okay. Elon Musk even responded to this, saying, defending his Tesla, saying, no, there's no way it could have taken off on its own. You guys are always picking on Tesla, but questions remain, you guys. Okay, thank you for the super chat. Yankee Doodle Dandy, you said, thank you. True journalists are hard to find today. I appreciate that. I do get, people definitely yell at me, pick on me for covering things like that, for seeking answers to your questions that are more like conspiracy theory-esque questions, but they're legitimate questions. Are cars hackable? As it turns out, they definitely appear to be, and we're about to dig into this. But by the way, just looking at the obituary for the doctor, his name was William Varner. His obituary says, since 2005, Dr. Varner has been the director of the Memorial Hermann Surgery Center in the Woodlands. He also served on the clinical government board for USAP oversight for outpatient surgery centers. He's held a pretty high up position in medicine for quite some time. And his friend who was in the passenger seat was Everett Talbot. And it says, his obituary says, for nearly 3 decades, Everett has been a financial planner owning a business, Talbot Financial, in Spring, Texas. Okay, let's look at when the Washington Post actually explored whether cars are hackable. And turns out, yes, they appear to be. Washington Post, quote, what we know about car hacking, the CIA, and those WikiLeaks claims from 2017. They said, tucked into WikiLeaks' analysis of a trove of documents allegedly from the Central Intelligence Agency is a stunning line that the agency has looked into hacking cars, which WikiLeaks asserts could be used to carry out nearly undetectable assassinations. In making its claim, WikiLeaks links to meeting notes from 2014 listing potential mission areas for the CIA's Embedded Devices branch, which includes vehicle systems and QNX. The leaked documents, which the Washington Post could not independently verify and the CIA has declined to confirm, do not appear to suggest the vehicles be used for assassinations. And even WikiLeaks admits, quote, the purpose of such control is not specified. The fear that your car can be hacked and made to crash is not new, and it's not completely unfounded. Concerns about automotive cybersecurity have been raised since automakers began outfitting cars and trucks with computer-controlled systems. Those concerns have been compounded in recent years as an increased number of cars come equipped with connections including satellite, Bluetooth, and internet that experts say make them more vulnerable to hackers who can then gain access to the computerized systems without ever stepping foot near the actual vehicle. Here's what we know about hacking into the remotely controlled cars. Vehicles have been hacked before, the Washington Post reports. Vehicles have been hacked before. In 2015, security researcher Charlie Miller and Chris Valasek hacked into a 2014 Jeep Cherokee and managed to, quote, turn the steering wheel, briefly disable the brakes, and shut down the engine. The Post's Craig Timberg reports. The pair found they could also access thousands of other vehicles that used a wireless entertainment and navigation system called Uconnect, which was common to Dodge, Jeep, and Chrysler vehicles. The hack prompted Fiat Chrysler to recall 1.4 million vehicles. Unreal, you guys. Valasek said via email, quote, it doesn't appear that any manufacturers currently have detection/prevention methods for such attacks. Remember, Charlie and I did all this research in our spare time with limited resources. Unreal. The Miller and Valasek hack is widely reported, but it wasn't the first or even most recent successful security breach. Researchers from the University of Washington and University of California at San Diego published papers in 2010 and 2011 showing that vehicles could be compromised when hackers gain access either in person or remotely. Last year, researchers in Germany released a study showing they could unlock and start 24 different vehicles with wireless key fobs by taking control of the device remotely and amplifying its signal, Wired magazine reported. Well, the wireless key fob was still on the kitchen counter. Hackers could be driving off with the car, researchers claimed. Yikes. Yoni Heilbronn, the vice president of marketing at Argus Cybersecurity, an automotive security company, said the equation is very simple. If it's a computer and it connects to the outside world, then it's hackable. Wow, you guys. Well, you can read this full article yourselves. You know, when I hang up this live chat, I'm going to link this article down below. So you can see it yourself. Mainstream media used to report that stuff. Now, if anyone asks questions as to whether a car was hacked, it's a conspiracy theory. And with Anne Heche, Police are done investigating. Police have thrown in the towel on her case because she's died. They said, well, we're no longer going to investigate because she died. You know, because they were investigating her as a criminal, and now they can't charge her with anything, so they're throwing in the towel. But, you know, maybe police should look at whether cars are hackable. You know, do they include that in their investigation? It might be something to start including now that hackers have attempted in a study to and successfully hacked a car. Okay. Thank you all for chiming in on the comment section. Checking your comments now. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, that's crazy. Wow. The whole case and situation was so odd. 30 minutes before she was 100% okay. Yeah. Really strange stuff, you guys. And in that Tesla crash, their car went up to 67 miles per hour, I believe it was, in a 30-mile-per-hour neighborhood on a short little road, little wooded neighborhood. I went out there to cover it, and it's an extremely exclusive community, gated off. I wasn't even allowed to go in and look at the scene at all. But weird stuff. These cars seeming to have a mind of their own. Now I regret buying my Mercedes. It's too late to exchange it. But wish me luck, guys. Pray for me. If my car crashes, it wasn't me. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we will see you guys tomorrow.